Like and subscribe and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
Victoria's state budget might chart a course further from the federal orbit. You can plan, you can prep, you can pray. But there is no way of knowing the future, which is how I am explaining what I wrote about the Victorian state budget in the hazy days of May 2019 when I said other states would love to have the problems Victoria does. Victoria has problems. And a lot of money is being used to fix a lot of them. Today, we get the latest look into the books via the state budget. Treasurer Tim Pallas will reveal how the government will spend money ahead of November's state election. The Treasurer is expected to announce an operating deficit of $17.6 billion for 2021/22, with a cash deficit of $11.8 billion. The operating deficit is significantly higher than the $11.6 billion figure predicted in last year's budget, but less than what was forecast in the budget update in December. Mr. Pallas is expected to announce the state will return to surplus in 2025/26. There have only been a handful of pre-budget announcements this time around, including a $250 rebate for all electricity bill payers tipped to cost the state $250 million and a tax hike for Crown Casino's poker machines. On Tuesday morning, the government announced a $698 million package to expand the state's hospital in the home program. The government said the extra money would help 15,000 Victorians access home-based care each year, as well as telehealth checkups. There is likely to be much more in the budget for the state's strained health system. More nurses, more ambos, more call takers, more dispatchers, more care, more often, closer to home. That is what tomorrow's budget is going to be all about, Premier Daniel Andrews told ABC Radio Melbourne on Monday. Before we get there, it is worth looking at the pre-COVID era to chart where the nation's second most populous state has come from. And where it is going. Time machine time. In 2019, the Labor Party failed to win a federal election it was widely expected to succeed at. That wiped out a generous $2 billion funding promise that made its point about how Victoria has been historically shortchanged in infrastructure from the federal government, with all the subtlety of the sledgehammer it would have paid for. The federal government is contributing to projects including the Melbourne Airport rail link, and has billions for the east-west freeway tunnel in a locked box that won to be redirected to developments like the Suburban Rail Loop, West Gate Tunnel or the Metro Tunnel. But the budget was roaring anyway. Funded by cheap money, the Andrews government was spending $107 billion on current or imminent infrastructure projects, and the Treasurer crowed it was more than the Commonwealth would spend on the entire nation in the coming decade. Nearly 3,000 new residents were arriving per week in Melbourne, and the budget had schools, rail tunnels, level crossing removals and projects in just about every postcode in the state. Then, COVID-19. Pandemic tests. Victorians' resilience. Victoria was hit hard by the pandemic. Gross state product, GSP, is the value of all the good and services in a period, the state equivalent that goes on to make up gross domestic product for the nation. In financial year 2020 to 2021, Victoria's GSP slid 0.4%. New South Wales recorded a 1.4% lift. South Australia a 3.9% bump. The Northern Territory was the only jurisdiction joining Victoria in negative territory, falling 0.6%. When it comes to different categories, it is not a shock if you think about the restrictions and lockdowns to contain the COVID pandemic that tested Victoria's, largely Melbourne's, resilience for months. Contractions were biggest in construction, -4.6%. Administrative and support services, -9.0%, and transport, postal and warehousing, -8.7%. Last year's budget forecast an $11.6 billion deficit this year, with deficits until at least 2025. By the mid-year update in December that had hiked $8 billion to be an eye-watering $19.5 billion in deficit as spending, to get the state firing again, added up. But that was when only Greek speakers and Scrabble enthusiasts knew how to spell Omicron. That covered variant put a chill through Christmas 2021 and the summer period, something Melburnians took a while to shake off in 2022. Heading to the ballot boxes, twice the budget comes down in the middle of a federal election and 6 months before Victorians go to the polls to choose a government. The coalition has well-established problems in the state, at a federal level. There are 38 federal representatives that go from Victoria to sit in the lower house of Parliament in Canberra. Just 12 of them are from the Liberal Party. Another 3 are from the Nationals. At the last election, if the most senior Victorian Liberal, Treasurer and Deputy Leader Josh Frydenberg got another 586 votes, he would have won.